Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's Keshwani, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT math problems out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problem that we are about to solve is the one that you will find on page number 768. Page number 768. Please turn to it. And today is our lesson number 91. Number 1. Problem number 1. This section has 18 questions. First 8 questions are multiple choice questions. Therefore, the scale of difficulty goes from 1 through 8 for the first 8 multiple choice questions. And then beginning with question number 9, they give you a different type of questions, the gradient questions, and therefore the difficulty scale starts again. And there are 10 gradient questions, 9 through 18. So the first 8 are going to go on a scale of 1 through 8, and it's going to end. Beginning with 9, a new type of questions begins, and therefore a new difficulty scale starts. Number 1. Number 1 is number 1 on a scale of 1 to 8. It's a very simple one. It says, according to certain recipe, 25 pounds of flours are needed to make 300 rolls. The question simply is, at this rate, how many pounds of flours are needed to make 12 rolls? It's a simple proportion problem. We're going to set it up as a proportion problem and solve it. So here we have our pound of flour, and here we have number of rolls. And we are told that 25 pounds will make 300 rolls. The question is, how many pounds do we need to make 12 rolls? Cross multiply 300 times x equals 25 times 12. Let's divide both sides by 25. Now, why am I dividing both sides by 25? Why not divide both sides by 12? Because 12 is not going to go evenly into 300. It's much easier. Oh, maybe it does. I don't think it will. 12.5 would, but 12 would not. But that wasn't the reason. The reason why I wanted to divide by 25 is because 25 is much easier to divide by any multiple of 100. Why is it to divide any multiple of 100 by 25? Because we know how many 25s there are in 100. 100 has 4 25s. Therefore, 200 will have 8 25s, and 300 will have 12 25s. So if you divide top and bottom by 25, 25 cancels out, and this 300 becomes 12. And this 25 goes away. So now what it reads is that 12x equals to 12. If you divide both sides by 12, 12 drops out and x equals to 1. There you go. X equals to 1. In other words, we will need 1 pound of flour to make 12 rolls. Number 2. Question number 2. We are told that x times y equals 10. In number 2, we are told the product of x and y is 10. The question simply is, how much is 2 times x over y times y squared? Well, y squared obviously can be written as y times y. And therefore, and this of course is extend all the way through. If you divide top and bottom by y, this y drops out. And what we have here is 2 times x times y. 2 times x times y. We already know x times y is 10. So it's just 2 times 10. 2 times 10 or 20. Number 3 on the next page. Page number 669. Number 3. Strangely enough, that one is also, number 3 is also classified as the easy questions. You're supposed to have 2 easy questions in the first page, and then the next page you're supposed to have the 4 medium questions, and then on the following page the 2 questions 7 and 8 are supposed to be hard ones. But anyway, this one is classified as the easy one. We are told that x plus y equals 30. We are also told that x is more than 8. The question is, which of the following must be true? Well, if x is more than 8, and since their sum has to be exactly equal to 30, exactly equals to 30, we know 22 plus 8 equals 30. Since their sum has to be exactly equal to 30, and we are told that x is more than 8, well, if x is more than 8, to compensate for the fact that x is more than 8, given the fact that the sum of the two numbers has to be exactly 30, therefore the other one will have to be less than 22. Y would have to be less than 22. 22 with a minus sign on it, it says less than 22, or simply put, y has to be less than 22. If x is more than 8, y has to be less than 22, and that answer is B. And that's the only way you're going to end up having two numbers add up to 30. Do you understand? If x is more than 8, the y cannot be equal to 22, because then 22 plus something more than 8 is going to be more than 30. And y cannot be more than 22, because something more than 22 plus something more than 8 will also be more than 30. So if one number is more than 8, the other one has to be less than 22 in order for their sum to be exactly 30. Number 4. In number 4, we are given 3 points here. P, we are told, is 3, 2. 3 and 2. Q, we are told, is 7 and 2. R, we are told, is 7 and 4. What is the question? The coordinates of P, Q, and R in the XY plane are given above. Alright. The question is, what's the perimeter of this triangle PQR? These 3 points apparently are going to form a triangle. Well, not apparently, I didn't mean it that way. Obviously, any 3 points, any 3 distinct points will form a triangle. Our job is to find out what the perimeter of this triangle is. So let's first find out what shape this triangle is. Okay? Let's plot it here. 3, 2. 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. And 2. 1, 2. So that's our point P. Then we have 7, 2. 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 and 2. And that's Q. That's 7, 2. And this P was 3, 2. The very first thing we notice is that because their y coordinates are the same, the line PQ must be parallel to x-axis. Line PQ is parallel to x-axis because of the fact that their y coordinates are the same, 2 and 2. Point R is 7, 4, 7 and 4. There is your 7 and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Right here is point R, 7 and 4. Again, because the x-coordinate of Q is same as the x-coordinate of R, that tells us that the line line RQ is parallel to y-axis. If line RQ is parallel to y-axis and line PQ is parallel to x-axis, it forms a right angle. And we're dealing with a right angle triangle. P to Q, the x-coordinate of Q is 7, x-coordinate of P is 3, therefore the difference is 4. Similarly, R to Q, the y-coordinate of R is 4, and the y-coordinate of Q is 2, therefore R to Q is 2. So we know this side, R to Q is equal to 2, we know this side is 4, we can figure out the remaining side, which is the hypotenuse by the simple application of Pythagorean theorem. And once we have the hypotenuse, all we have to do is add up the 3 sides, and that will give us our perimeter that we are looking for. Let's do it, shall we? Let's do it on the top here. So x squared, which is hypotenuse squared, equals square of this side, which is 4, plus the square of that side, which is 2. 4 squared plus 2 squared is 16 plus 4, which is 20. So this equals 20, and therefore x equals square root of 20. There you go, we're done. And therefore the perimeter is, which is from P to R. Square root of 20. And therefore the perimeter that we're looking for is simply 4 plus 2 plus square root of 20, which is same as 6 plus square root of 20. And that would be answer choice C. That is answer choice C. Let's move on then. Number 5. Number 5. The first 5 terms in a sequence are shown above. Alright, so here we go. 8, 17, 26, 35 and 44. Each term after the first term is found by adding 9 to the term immediately preceding it. As we can see here, it goes up by 9, starting with 8. First term is given to us and then it goes up by 9. The question simply is, which term is this in the sequence is equal to 8, which is our first term, plus 26 minus 1 times 9. In other words, what they're asking here is, do you recognize the pattern? Do you know how to write this thing in an algebraic expression? A given term in this sequence is to be found by using this expression 8, which is our initial point, the starting point, and then after that it's n minus 1 times 9. For example, the first term, n1, first term would be 8 plus n equals 1 here. Let's not call it n1, let's call it n is equal to 1. For the first term, n equals 1. For the very first term, n equals 1, and see what happens. And this is our formula, 8 plus n minus 1. So here n is equal to 1. So it's going to be 1 minus 1 times 9. Well, 1 minus 1 is 0. And 0 times 9 is 0. 0 times anything is 0, and therefore it equals 8. The second term is going to be when n is equal to 2. And again we follow the formula. 8 plus n minus 1. n is 2. 2 minus 1 times 9. 2 minus 1 is 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 1 times 9 is 9. So we get 8 plus 9, which is our 17, which is our second term right here. The third one is going to be n equal to 3. Again, 8 plus n, which is 3, minus 1 times 9. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 8 is what we're looking for. And so on and so forth. So this is our formula. 8 plus n minus 1 times 9. And therefore, the n that they're looking for is 26. This represents the 26th term. Not the 25th term, not the 27th term. This represents the 26th term. And that answer choice will be D. Do you understand? 99th term would have, again, you'll have 99 minus 1. So 99th term would have actually 98 times 9. 101 term would be 100 times 9 plus the 8. 100 times 9 gives you the 100 terms that you see there after the first 8. You have the first 8 in the beginning, so that occupies the first spot, and then you have 100 more terms. So 100 more terms plus the first term, which is 101 terms, and therefore the 101st term is going to be 101st term, n equals to 101. 101st term is simply going to be 8 plus 100 times 9, because it's going to be 101 minus 1. 101 minus 1 is 100, so 100 times 9 plus 8 and so forth. Number 6. Question number 6. The very last one on the page. Three lines intersect at a point as shown in the picture above, and it looks something like this. We have alright, and this is our R, S, T, X, Y, and Z. What's the very first thing we notice? We know that opposite angles are equal. When two lines intersect, this angle equals this angle, and this angle equals this angle. Let's give them names. So angle A equals angle B, and angle C equals angle D. We know that opposite angles are equal to each other. They're referred to as opposite angle, or the more appropriate terminology would be vertical angles. They're called vertical angles, and vertical angles are always equal. So here, angle A equals angle B, and angle C equals angle D. The same thing is true here. Before we do any work at all, we should realize that t equals z. T equals z. We also know that s equals y. S is opposite to y. S equals y. And similarly, r equals x. R equals x. Let's see what they're asking actually. We have not read the punchline, have we? Which of the following pairs of angle measures is not sufficient? It's not sufficient for determining all the 6 angles angle measure. Which of the following is not sufficient? Let's begin with E. In E, listen carefully. Listen carefully. In E, they tell us R and S. Well, if we know R, we can figure out the X. So we have 2 angles there. If we know S, we can figure out the Y. So far we have 4 angles determined. Now once we have R and S, because let's give this line's name so we can talk about them. Let's call this line that I'm tracing over, let's call it L1. Now on L1, the straight line always makes 180 degrees. So this is 180 degrees. Once we have S and R, we can figure out the T. And once we can figure out the T, we can figure out the Z because T and Z are equal. You see? E does the job. If we know R and S, we can figure out the other 4 angles. Let's look at the others. Answer choice D says R and T. R and T. Well, if we know R, we can figure out the X. Right here, we can figure out the X. And if we know T, we can figure out the Z. Again, once we have R and T, we can use this line here. R and T, we can use this line. Let's call it line number 3. This is line 2. And again, it makes 180 degrees. Once we have T and X rather, once we have T and X, we can figure out the Y. Y is simply going to be, Y in this case is going to be 180 minus T plus X. There's your Y. So once we know the Y, we can figure out the S. It is also possible. Answer choice C says S and X. I'm going to pick up speed now. S and X. X, Y, Z. S and X. Well, if we know S and X, using line 2 here, using this line L2, in L2, we know that these 3 angles have to equal 180. S plus T plus X equals to 180 because it's a straight line. And if we know S and we know X, we can figure out the T because T simply equals 180 minus S plus X. So we can figure out the T. And once we figure out the T, if we know the top 3 angles, we can figure out the bottom 3 angles because they're all opposite angles. And that one was, which one did I just do? S and X. Let's look at T and Y now. Answer choice B. In answer choice B, T is given and Y is given. There you go. Again, if T is given and Y is given, then using this line right here, that one was line number 3, using line number 3, if we know T and we know Y, we can figure out the X. X equals 180 minus T minus Y. And again, once we know the X, we know the top 3 angles, we can figure out the bottom 3 angles. The only pair that they give you which will not do the job is the answer choice A. Why? Because in answer choice A, they do not give us 2 distinct angles. They have to give us 2 unique angles. They do not. The pair that they're giving us in answer choice A is T and Z. Look what happens. In A, they give us T and they give us Z. Well, if they give us T and Z, they're not giving us any new information because T is equal to Z. They are equal angles. We need to know one more angle here. There are 3 angles in a given line. If any line that you take, whether you take L1 or L2 or L3, a given line is made up of 3 angles. For example, L1 is made up of R, S and T. And since it's made up of 3 angles, we need to know at least 2 of those 3 angles. So in order for us to be able to figure out the third angle. I'll say it one more time. A line comprises here of three angles. Any line, L1, L2, or L3 is made up of three angles. For example, L3 is made up of T, X, and Y. L2 is made up of S, T, and X. Since a line is made up of three angles, we need to know two of those three angles in order for us to be able to find the remaining angle, the remaining third angle. Here, all we know is T. T and Z, they are equal to each other, so we only have one angle. Answer choice A. A is the answer. The pair that they give us in A is not sufficient for determining all the six angles that they're given to us. It's impossible. I will see you tomorrow, where we'll continue on the next page, number 7 and 8. Those are hard questions, hard multiple choice questions. We'll do them tomorrow. Okay? And then day after tomorrow, when we begin our journey with the grading, we'll be back to the easy questions, because a new skill will start. Okay? Bye now.